All right, let's talk about contingency planning. And look, forget about some dusty binder sitting on a shelf. We're talking about a core discipline for any executive who wants to stay in control when things, inevitably go sideways. This really gets to the heart of it. Contingency planning is not about having a crystal ball. It's about pre-authorizing the tough decisions before a crisis ever hits. That way, your team can respond with speed and clarity, not confusion. And that is the most important part. When a disruption hits, a leader's number one asset is their ability to make a call. The whole point of contingency planning is to protect that authority right when it's most at risk. So, this brings us to a bit of a paradox. The best time to plan for a storm isn't when it's pouring rain, right? It's when the sun is shining. But that's usually when we feel the most secure, the most invincible. It's a fair question, isn't it? I mean, when everything is going up and to the right, when the numbers look great, why would you worry? Why on earth would you spend time and money planning for something to go wrong? Well, because that success, it can create its own kind of blindness. As you grow, you add complexity. You might become a little too dependent on certain customers or suppliers. Risk gets concentrated in ways you just don't see, at least not until a disruption comes along and exposes all those hidden fault lines. And these are the real risks for an executive. We're talking about losing your authority to make a decision, watching your teams fight over priorities, risking your finances, and seeing your company's reputation get shredded by a chaotic response. These aren't just operational hiccups. They are failures of preparation. Okay, so to really get this right, we have to draw a clear line between planning for a crisis and actually responding to one. They are not the same thing. Let's break that down. So there's a huge difference between preparing the organization and leading it through the fire. Contingency planning is proactive. It builds the structure, the guardrails. Crisis leadership, on the other hand, is reactive. It's how you have to operate within that structure. A great plan actually makes great leadership possible. And here's another critical distinction. Think of it this way. Contingency planning is the strategic framework. It's deciding what to save and what to let go of. Business continuity, that's the operational plan that follows those orders. One decides the path, the other one walks it. Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. Now for the good stuff. How do you actually build a plan that works when you need it? Let's get into the executive's playbook. Any plan that's actually executable, not just a document, boils down to these three pillars: clear triggers, defined authority, and committed resources. If you're missing even one of these, what you have is just theory. But with all three, it becomes a seriously powerful tool for action. First up, triggers. Think of this as the starting gun. A good trigger isn't some vague feeling. It's a clear, measurable line in the sand. And when that line is crossed, the plan just activates. No debate. It gets rid of that dangerous hesitation where everyone sits around a table asking, is this serious enough yet? And here it is. This is the absolute core of the entire exercise. I mean, if you get nothing else right, get this part right. Because in a crisis, any ambiguity about who is in charge is just fatal. Your plan has to answer these questions with specific names, not just titles. Who declares the emergency? Who controls the purse strings? Who is the only person speaking for the company? When everybody knows the answers beforehand, you protect the team from infighting and you protect the organization from a slow, confused response. And finally, your plan has to have teeth. It needs to be operational, not just aspirational. Without a pre-approved budget, without people already assigned, and without access to the critical tools you'll need, your contingency plan isn't really a plan at all. It's just a wish. So now let's just elevate this for a second. Thinking about this purely as a defensive move misses half the point. This is actually about building a stronger, more agile, and more resilient organization. The process of planning itself is incredibly valuable. It's like taking an X-ray of your business. It forces you to look at everything with a critical eye, and it reveals all the hidden dependencies and fragile assumptions your entire strategy might be resting on. And that resilience, that becomes a weapon. Because when your competitors are frozen by uncertainty, your organization can decide and act with confidence. That kind of speed and agility is a massive competitive advantage. Ultimately, it all comes back to this one thing. A leader's primary job is to exercise good judgment, and this entire discipline is designed to protect your ability to do just that, especially when the pressure is at its absolute highest and conditions are the least forgiving. So let's be real. Disruption isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So the only question that's left is, when that moment arrives, is your leadership team truly prepared to decide